When I say March 11th, 2020, do you piss yourself a little bit? If you're alive in 2020, you probably said yes, because that was the date that COVID was officially declared a pandemic. And if you weren't alive, then you're like 5, and you should probably go to bed. Now, what about when I say March 20th, 2020? Does that ring any bells? That's right, 9 days after the official start of the pandemic, Animal Crossing New Horizons was released on the Switch. So there I was, on release day, standing in a line outside of GameStop, 6 feet away from the guy in front of me, of course, waiting to get my copy. And I had been looking forward to this game for months. I have such fond memories of playing Animal Crossing on my GameCube when I was a kid. And New Horizons just looked so good from the previews that we got. A few days later, I flew home because my college shut down, and I spent every day for the next several months basically living my life through Animal Crossing. Designing my island, fishing for sturgeon, visiting my friends' islands, and man, I did not expect for this game to kind of save my life for a bit there. That was a crazy time. My God. I loved New Horizons, and apparently I wasn't alone. There's no doubt that the pandemic made the game more successful if your measure of success is sales. But what if you look at its success in terms of the actual experience of playing, like its design? I've gone back to play New Horizons a couple of times since the pandemic. I still love the game. It's just that pandemic Animal Crossing just hit different. There were so many qualities about New Horizons that made it perfect for lockdown. And the crazy part is we almost missed that experience. Originally, Nintendo planned to release the game in 2019, but delayed it to 2020. And yes, if it was released in 2019, we'd have the game during the shutdown, but it wouldn't be this moment of stars aligning. This combination of the hype of a new release, the yearning for something to do during a lockdown, and the need for a sense of comfort and coziness during a time of great uncertainty. The world context would be so different, which definitely would have changed how I experienced it. If you're watching this and you weren't an Animal Crossing player during the pandemic, then you'll probably think I am reading into this stuff way too much. And the truth is, I am. And I don't care what you think. I can do whatever I want. I can say, maybe it sounds dramatic to say that it was more than a game, but you know what? I'm gonna say it. It was more than a flipping game. Okay, so to understand why New Horizons' pandemic era design hit the way it did, it might be worth understanding the original Animal Crossing's game design. There are some foundational ways New Horizons diverged from the first game, ways that I think helped it work during the pandemic. The first Animal Crossing game came out in 2001 on the N64 in Japan. It was called Dobutsu no Mori, or Animal Forest. A year later, it was released worldwide on the GameCube as Animal Crossing.
It's Animal Crossing for the Nintendo GameCube. Get your own place and become part of a thriving community.
The concept for the game came from its creator Katsuya Iguchi and his experience moving away from friends and family at 21 to go to Kyoto and work for Nintendo in the late 80s. In an interview, Iguchi said, "When I moved there, I left my family and friends behind. In doing so, I realized that being close to them, being able to spend time with them, talk to them, play with them, was such a great, important thing. I wondered for a long time if there would be a way to recreate that feeling." And that was the impetus behind the original Animal Crossing. So Animal Crossing's original design really stemmed from wanting connection with the people he loved, when he couldn't easily do that in person. So in this first game, you arrive in a town by train, and it's already well established. You're greeted on the ride over by Rover, who calls his buddy Tom Nook to hook you up with a cheap place to live, and in exchange, you'll work part-time at Nook's Cranny to pay him back. You're kind of the new guy, you're in this new place, but you start to learn your way around town. The next two games that came out, Wild World on the DS and City Folk on the Wii, started basically in the same way. There were some small changes, like in Wild World, you arrived by taxi, and in City Folk, you arrived by bus. But the basic storyline was the same. You arrive to this established town, pay off your house loan to Tom Nook, and start living your life in this new community, doing whatever you want. But the pattern starts to break with the fourth game in the franchise, New Leaf, for the 3DS. In this game, as soon as you arrive in your town, Isabelle and some villagers mistake you for the new mayor. And then you're just like, the mayor. Sounds like real life politics, am I right? After finding a place to live, you need to increase your town's approval rating by doing daily tasks. And once you reach a 100% approval rating, you can build public work projects and enact ordinances. So, unlike previous games, you're no longer just some resident in this pre-established town. You're now the primary one responsible for it in practically every way. And the fact that the game changed from the origin isn't something I necessarily think is bad. I think it's to be expected with any game. And honestly, as I was looking back on all of these games in the franchise, I was kind of surprised how little the first 3 games changed from each other. I think it was time for some things to evolve a bit more. And this was actually the exact intention the creators of New Leaf had. They talked about being ready for the game to go beyond the standard Animal Crossing mold and turn a new leaf. Anyways, they wanted to explore giving the user more freedom and customization while still keeping the core themes alive. New Leaf was received extremely well and is one of, if not the most beloved Animal Crossing games for longtime fans. So New Leaf started this evolution of Animal Crossing, but when New Horizons came out, they really said, let's see how far we can push this customization thing. And push they did. In New Horizons, the first big difference is that you're now moving to a deserted island, not just a new town. You get to this place with practically nothing. No houses, no shops, just a resident services tent and 2 strangers. The first thing you do is pitch your tent and the tents of your newfound friends around the island wherever you choose. You learn about crafting DIY recipes, make and use tools, and then you kind of start doing things like the very basics, since that's really all you can do at that point. From the very beginning, there's this focus on self-sufficiency. Like you're kind of just camping for a while. Like literally the only way anything gets done on the island is if you work at it. You're in charge of getting every single house and shop built, choosing where they go, and as you progress through the game, you earn the ability to do even more things like terraforming, where you can dramatically change the landscape of your island. New Horizons built on the deviations that New Leaf makes from its predecessors. Like compared to the original, it was virtually a completely different game. But these design decisions in 2020 were just... But why was that? Why did this game that is in many ways different from other Animal Crossings work so well during the pandemic? And why does it feel so different now? Well, let me tell you my very uneducated guess. I think there are 3 main pillars of New Horizons design that overlapped with what we were totally desperate for in 2020. The customization in New Horizons is crazy. The DIY recipes, crafting items, terraforming, placing furniture wherever you want, choosing where you live, where all these shops are, deciding what your character looks like. You could even design your own clothes, like pixel for pixel, they let you customize what you got to wear. You had a say in how your entire world worked. New Horizons gave me the ability to create the world I wished I was living in. Not just as a fun little escape, but almost like another reality. Do you know that episode of The Office where Dwight is playing this game called Second Life? Dwight basically recreates his exact life in this game. Like he's the top salesman at a paper company, he dresses the same, and everything. But in this world, he can fly. So he's not really playing the game to enter into a new world. He's using it to recreate the world that he's living in now, just in the way that he wished it was. I used New Horizons in that same way during lockdown. Lockdown, for obvious reasons, closed a lot of opportunities for us, and New Horizons restored that sense of responsiveness from the world. Every piece of furniture placed, every villager interacted with, every sapling planted, made a real difference to my environment. Don't get me wrong, the autonomy it gave us wasn't just about creating this controlled, predictable daily life. It was also about the autonomy to explore, to choose to experience novel situations. These little surprises that brought you more delight and positive anticipation, rather than the anxiety and dread that was characteristic of the lockdown. Once COVID started, I realized how much I took for granted the value of experiencing new things, even really small ones in your day-to-day life. Like I would go to the same classes in college, pass the same buildings, but maybe one day I unexpectedly pass a friend I hadn't seen in a while. Or maybe there's a big bird on top of the library, and it's taking this huge shit. It wasn't until we were all locked inside during COVID that I realized how important these small, unexpected things were to me. Maybe one day on my island, Sahara shows up and I could buy a new rug from her. Or maybe there's a fucking flying present in the sky that I shoot down. The things that could happen just seemed kind of endless, and it brought back this excitement for what the day could bring. My actions felt like parts of a conversation I was having with the world. A conversation that I couldn't have with the real physical world at the time. And so, New Horizons, by granting players the autonomy it did in a world that felt alive, was definitely part of its pandemic era magic. Being able to go about your daily life with very low stakes is something I've always appreciated about Animal Crossing. Like, there are very few things that can go wrong. The worst thing that could happen is maybe getting stung by a bee, which is even kind of fun because you just look weird for a while. You buy some medicine if you don't want to look weird anymore, do a little spin, and there you go. All better. Nothing detrimental happens in the game though. You don't have hearts or energy that depletes throughout the day. You don't have to eat to stay alive. And having access to this low stakes space was very much needed during the pandemic, when everything you did carried much more risk than ever before. Leaving your house to go anywhere wasn't just a little errand. It was now something that could put your health and the health of everyone in your household at risk. But every day in New Horizons, we could just do these mundane tasks that we miss doing in the real world. Tasks that we never thought we'd miss. In a pre or post-pandemic context, when these activities are just available for us to do without us needing to think about whether it's safe, maybe it's not as meaningful doing them in the game. But during the pandemic, when it's your only way to do these mundane things daily, they feel so much more important. But it wasn't just the mundane things that mattered. It was the structure that came from them. There was a routine. I didn't have to guess what to do from moment to moment. When the pandemic disrupted much of the mundane, I found myself with all of this anxious energy and time that moved way too slow. And by giving me back the space to do these things, New Horizons gave me the opportunity to build back some structure into my life. If you were to ask yourself in the real world, what am I going to do today? Your answer might be, I need to sell my turnips, and then it's the fishing tournament today, so that'll take up most of my time, and then I want to finish building the new path down to the museum. Like, that was my to-do list in real life. I was able to restore this sense of structure. Community is maybe the most important of the three pillars because we were so extremely deprived of it during COVID. Have you guys ever seen that Vsauce video from like 10 years ago where he locks himself in this tiny ass room completely alone for like a couple of days? He mentioned that scientists say even 3 days in isolation can cause literal brain damage. Scientists also say that just 20 minutes of watching a Forfo Fart House video is to cause severe brain damage. But anyways, while he's stuck in this tiny ass room, he starts to lose his mind pretty quickly. And I'm not saying the pandemic was that extreme, but I think it gave us a taste of what that might feel like at least. Like, I had some stimuli going into my brain. I didn't live alone, thank God, but the social deprivation was completely agonizing sometimes. Not only did Animal Crossing give me some sense of mental stimulation, but it also eased that feeling of isolation. I think the theme of community has been central to the entire franchise, but the feeling of community during pandemic New Horizons was something else. It wasn't just being in community with your villagers. It was the online community of other players that was central to my playing experience. Like, we were really turning this mostly single player game into this web of connected islands. Figuring out turnip sale optimization together, sharing DIY recipes, creating Discord communities. I remember specifically learning how to cheese millions of bells worth of sturgeon from some of these online spaces. While the older games relied more on giving you that sense of community with your villagers, I didn't really think about New Horizons in that way. What I remember most playing it in 2020 was being in those online spaces, playing with friends, some who were just down the street and some who were across the country. And maybe that's the main reason it feels different now. We created the community around the game. It wasn't just something that was built into it. So what happened post-pandemic? Well, we got our autonomy back, we were able to go about our lives without needing to worry so much, and we were able to rejoin our communities. We didn't solely depend on getting these things from a virtual world anymore. I've seen a lot of people talk about feeling nostalgic for playing New Horizons, specifically in 2020, And I think it's probably because it filled these gaps in our lives. But nowadays, those gaps are a lot smaller overall. We were craving control during COVID, and the game gave us a lot of that. But now that we've gotten a lot of that control back, maybe the game just feels like too much. You know, there's this thing called decision fatigue. When you go to a place like In-N-Out, you don't have many options, so your choice is pretty simple to make. But the thing is, we think we want more choices because in our monkey brain, choices equals freedom, right? Unfortunately, we're a little stupid. So when you go somewhere like the Cheesecake Factory, where the menu is like literally made up of 200 plus options, it's actually harder to make a decision about what you want. And maybe something similar is happening in New Horizons post-pandemic. It all just feels overwhelming more than exciting, especially now that we have real life things to do again. So maybe playing the game today gives us a taste of what it would have been like if we played the game for the first time in a non-pandemic world, or a pre-pandemic world when the game was originally supposed to be released. It still would have been really cool to do all the things you can do, but we'd probably get tired of it sooner than we did during the pandemic. The fact that the release was pushed to 2020 and the stars aligned the way they did is crazy, because we almost didn't get the experience that we did, and we wouldn't have known. The novelty of it at the right moment, paired with a game design that unintentionally gave us exactly what was missing in the world at the time, was a special mix that made the game land in a way that I don't think it could have in any other circumstance. So whatever you think about the design of New Horizons, I think it just makes for a cool case study of game design interacting with broader real-world events. I'd be curious what your thoughts are on this, or if you know of any other games where you've seen something similar happen. And if so, feel free to share it in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe, ding the bell, and all the cool stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.